You're listening to Becoming CEO, where we share our journeys as solo founders to becoming the CEO of seven-figure businesses.
And these are our behind-the-scenes conversations as we figure it out, and these are things that most people just aren't sharing. All right, so here's a question for you. Can you be too real with your team?
I struggle with this. I actively, because, well, it's a tweet that I put out, right? So, it's on my mind. I actively struggle with this. On the one hand, I think people like to feel included, and they like to know what's going on, and they like to be part of the solution, and they're going to be more loyal to the cause. They're going to feel more involved. Like, everybody loves being part of a good old-fashioned mission, right? Like, we like to be at the ground level. We like to be, in the weeds, part of the solution, contributing to something, working together as part of a collective. Like, we like that, whether it's in sports or in business or religion, politics. Like, people like being part of something, right? And to make somebody feel like they're part of something, you can't just bark orders at them, give them a job to do, measure them on their particular output, and then call it a day. No, you have to actually make them feel like they're part of the thing, because they are part of the thing. I mean, it's not, right. I'm not talking about this in terms of like make them feel like they are. I'm talking about actually making them part of it, right? Like involving them authentically and integrating them into the effort. And then I wonder, is there an extreme? Like is there a point at which they're too involved and you run the risk of scaring people away because you signed up for the risk as the entrepreneur, as the founder. You signed up for the ups and downs. You signed up for the valleys and the troughs. They didn't as much. I mean, if they're working with a small company, I certainly was in that position. I was an employee of a smaller company. Yeah, to a certain extent, you do sign up for that, right? But at the end of the day, you're taking home a paycheck and a salary, and you're not compensated or punished for the risk either way. So I do struggle. I definitely lean towards being more authentic and being really blunt with my team about, hey, here's what's going on. Right now we have this problem, and it's a problem, and we got to fix it. Like I tend to be more direct, but I do wonder sometimes if I'm, and I think it also depends on the level of the person, right?
Yeah.
Somebody more senior, obviously more bought in. I do wonder though if I take it too far sometimes.
Yeah. So your tweet, to kind of round it out, was the more quote unquote real you are with your team, the more loyal they'll be on the cause. Tell them when things are broken. Don't sugarcoat your opinions. Challenge them to be better. Own up to your own mistakes. Ask them for their input. Be decisive and don't apologize for it.
Some of my most frustrating moments as an employee, I got to say, that's part of where this is coming from, is just not knowing what the hell my boss was thinking. Like just having a guess. Like, what's his strategy? Where is he taking us with this? What does he really think the issue is? Does he like this? Does he not like? I can't even tell you how much energy. It's probably particular to me. It's certain experiences as an employee that have colored this, but I just wasted so much time and energy as an integral part of a business trying to figure out what the hell the founder was thinking.
Yeah, I hear you. And I think what sparked in me, or what triggered me when I saw that, was, what's the extreme of that? Because I feel like I'm also the type of person who's really just raw and honest with where people are at, or where we're at as a company. When things suck, I acknowledge the fact that things are sucking right now, and here's what we're going to do about it, and like try to rally the troops, and like, be positive, right? I do think, and we had a conversation last week where we weren't recording, but you called me out on like, I can't make a decision right now while I'm being negative, and I was being negative, and I feel like, and maybe there's definitely correlation here in my opinion, but like, I feel like a lot of the things, like if I'm real and raw with my team, like, is it am I doing that too early? Like, am I not giving certain things enough time to process and it does more harm than good? Then where do I draw the line on that? So like, I think that's where I struggle, because I don't want everyone to be afraid, but I also want people to be like, yo, like, this is not, like, you shouldn't be as comfortable right now, sort of thing. And I'm not comfortable right now. And like, I know we're going to get through this, but like, to like expose how I'm feeling sometimes about our current situation, I just wonder, like, is that healthy? And this is to team. This is like when we had our conversation. This is like, I'm self-aware enough to know that, like, I know what I'm saying is not good. I'm self-aware enough to probably not say it. I don't know if holding it in and just like letting it pass, or actually verbalizing these things, which one is quote unquote better, or, the right move. Because I don't obviously want to sound like a negative Nancy sometimes. And like, real talk, like, I mean, the last few months in business have been kind of rough, like in different areas for different reasons. And it's like, sometimes even personally, I'm like, man, it's hard to even just like I'm trying to get them to be positive, and like I'm having difficulty being positive. And so is it authentic to show up and be positive when I'm really not? Like, yeah, I know we're going to figure it out. Like we always do. I'm literally not worried that we're going to figure it out, but that doesn't take away the uncomfort and the pain that we're actually feeling right now, or the feelings that we're feeling. And so, yeah, like, where do you draw the line? I think if I were to say if there were an extreme, I feel like I have to be crossing that extreme sometimes.
Yeah, look, I think there's a difference between being clear on where the issues are, mm-hmm, and obsessing over the negative. I think they're two different things, right? I think as a founder,
true,
it's your job to be clear, right? Like, sweeping issues under the rug is going to do you zero, or your team zero favors. Like, if there's a problem with a person, with a team, with a department, with a function, with a metric, it's your job to call that out and go, hey, this is a problem. Mm-hmm. It's not okay. This performance is unacceptable.
Right.
And we have to fix it. Right? Like, I think that's our job. The extreme that I'm aware of is making people feel like it's entirely their fault and there's no way out of it. Like, painting this picture like woe is. I think it really comes down to like playing the victim in all this and pointing the finger and blaming without taking ownership of the solution. So my preference, what I try to do, and I don't know that I'm great at it, is get clear on where the problem is, point to it, like look at it with the team for long enough to go, yeah, collectively we agree this is a problem. Okay, now collectively, what are we going to do about it? It's not your problem, it's not my problem, it's our problem.
Right, yeah.
But honestly, I think that's really a big part of what makes entrepreneurship and being a founder so difficult. Is, to your point, like, you can't go to your team and paint the rosy picture of the future unless you fundamentally believe in it. So you got to sort your own stuff out first in order to sort them out. And that's the challenge, right? Like, it's lonely up the top, hence the expression. Hence this podcast.
And I think we said this in one of the first episodes, where the quote that I forget who to attribute it to was, your business will never exceed your own capacity as an entrepreneur. And it's like, this is one of those areas where I feel like, at the place that we're in, revenue wise, team size wise, like, it is requiring a new version of me that, like, I'm trying to obviously, like, day in and day out become. And like, some days you're better at being that person than others. Yeah. And it's an interesting journey for sure.
That's a super empowering philosophy. Like, I think just let's step on that for a second. I think it's really useful for people who are listening. I fundamentally believe, to your point, Greg, I fundamentally believe that every problem that I face in the business now is training me to get to the next level. Right? The stuff I'm going through right now is it's like a vaccine, right? It's a shot in the arm, right? That's going to
Here we
protect
go.
me from bigger problems down the road. Let's get super
Yeah.
political, okay? Right? and the proof of that, and I'm sure this is true for you, the proof of that for me is if I look at the problems I'm facing now in the business, which are many, and the weight of those problems, and I ask myself, could I have bore the weight of the problems that I face today a year ago? And the answer is no.
100%.
I wouldn't have been able to deal with what I'm dealing with right now a year ago because I'm better now.
Well, and a year ago, I understand what you're saying. And fundamentally at the same time, I'm like, yeah, like you at some point actually were wishing for these problems, right? Because like you wish for your business to be at this level. You probably at the time didn't know that it comes with these problems. Maybe you did, but like obviously you don't know what that actually means until you get there. But like, hey, also you wanted to get to this point. And guess what? There's these are the problems that come along with having now got there. I actually, obviously not knowing some of that is like you hit this point, you're like, oh wow, like sweet, we make $1 million a year or whatever, but like everyone seems to be chasing this number, and it's like honestly, so far not all that great. It's like there's a lot of things that we got to figure out to like make this even better. And obviously there's gonna be problems that come at that level too.
I mean, it's funny, and I think everyone needs to hear it because we have clients we have a lot of solo consultants that come through, and their goal is to make 250, 300K a year as a solo consultant with no overhead and no staff or anything, maybe a VA,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they're happy. And I look at some of these people and I'm like, man, it sounds pretty sweet.
Yeah, right.
No team, no company, no like massive lead generation burden. They go in, they do their thing. And I don't actually want, like, I chose this and I'm happy with my choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of people would look at us who are in that position and go, oh, they got it made. Look how big their businesses are. The grass isn't always greener. It's a choice. I'm happy with my choice, but it's not always greener. Bigger's not always better.
Yeah, and not to go too far off tangent, but like we had a client, or I have a client right now that, when they came to us, they were doing like struggling to get to 20K a month, surpassed $1 million a year, 2 years in a row. And like, just had a conversation with them the other day and they're like, yeah, like we've amassed enough money and like we're investing in some other things and like have some other interests. Like they want to scale back this business to like 300 to 400 a year. And like downsize some of the team. And like, cause they do have really high profit margins and have been saving and like, they don't need the complexity of that. And they're like, yeah, like we love that we got there and like it helped us generate a lot of this money that is, now being invested in other places. And like, yeah, we just want to like, if we can get it to 300 to 400 a year and keep it there, like we're good. Like, cause we got these other things we're interested in. And I was like, in some ways I'm like, oh, it sounds really nice, because one of the things that we also did talk about that I think a lot of people don't talk enough about, and going back to our last episode, capacity, and fulfillment. Like if say you're doing $1 million right now, right? And you're like, oh, like I got to scale to 2. What if you actually stay at $1 million, but you cut your working hours in half? Many people would argue that your business is actually now more valuable than it was before because it is less dependent upon you as the owner. To get from 1 million to 2 million, it probably is going to require more of you, not less. And so like you're still going to be a bottleneck at 2 million. But like if you can optimize and be removing yourself and you work, 5 hours a week on your business and it's still doing $1 million a year, like that's a sellable asset. Like that will be way more desirable from buyers than say like you being the head of every department and, working 60 hours a week at 2 million, And so it's like, yeah, like she could actually work, our client, like she could be involved in her business about probably 5 to 10 hours a week doing that. And still extremely profitable. It's like, that's not a bad gig.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think every business is different, right? So the levels are going to vary depending on your model. I mean, for me, I work way less now than I did when we were at $1 million. At $1 million, I was working like a dog. 3 plus, I work less than ever.
I feel like I should be working more, but I'm not. But I'm in that area where, I feel like the things that I'm working on when I am working, it feels like I'm working like a dog. But nonetheless, so being real with your team, there's clearly there's a line. We both seem to possibly be crossing it. You, listener, probably will too at some point. How do you what's the feedback for these people? Like, if you had to give, what's the lesson learned, and how, if someone's feeling this way also, what would your advice be?
I think it depends on what you're trying to build. Okay. Take your client as an example. They are not trying to build an organization, right? They're trying to be at $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, have a very small team, minimal overhead, highly profitable. They don't need to really invest or think too much about team development. They need some people that they can tell what to do, and they can do it well, and they can take home a good wage. That's what they need, right? Yeah. I got 20 people. I have an organization at this stage, right? I can't have a bunch of yes people around me that just do what they're told only when they're told. I need people to take ownership of their work, feel connected to the organization, feel like they're part of something, right? To be truly invested in the effort. Mm-hmm. If not, it's going to be a gigantic headache for me, and I can't scale. So, I mean, to me, that's the line, right? If you're building an organization, that's a really key distinction. Are you building an organization that's not going to be entirely dependent on you, that will allow you to do what you do best and focus on your genius? Then I think you got to get people on the bus, in driver's seats, taking ownership, and you got to be real. If you're building something small where you don't need people to be in leadership positions, you're not building an organization, you need people to just do the work and do it well and do it efficiently, that's a different ballgame. And that's fine. That's not, neither is good or bad. Know the difference, though.
What he said.
All right, so we'll see which one of us tweets something smart next week, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, if this is clearly going to be a recurring podcast theme, we'll have to come up with a little jingle, have someone record it. If anyone's an audio engineer, and you want to record some sort of funny Twitter jam jingle, we'll insert it into the show. So, but no, I think I was actually really glad that you posted this, because I mean, obviously I think about it all the time, and with that self-awareness, I'm like, I don't know if I should have said that. Comes out of my mouth a lot these days, or at least runs through my head.
That's me every day,
fairly frequently. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. As always, my man, thought-provoking, challenging conversations. Actually, the next one, kind of building off this, I think next time I want to talk to you about from a real talk perspective, dealing with difficult conversations or confrontations with team, where it's about improvement. Maybe they did something wrong, or you want them to do something better, how you deliver that. Maybe there's a story that we can jam on, because I have a couple.
The short answer is not well, but yeah, we should have that chat.
All right, guys. Next time we'll chat with you.
Cheers. Thanks.